My name is Jorge Jraissati and I'm from Venezuela. And I'm here expressing to everyone and speaking out about the human rights violations that we have had in our country, which is horrible. In our country you have a brutal dictatorship who is incarcerating like hundreds of students. You have a dictatorship who is putting everyone to eat food from the garbage. And that's true in my country. People are eating food from the garbage because we have a country in which you have Maduro and you have Chavez, who nationalize all banking, nationalize the industries, and just destroy all companies and people who create jobs and opportunity for our people. So we are really struggling because of that. However, I'm here to offer optimism because you have people in many countries telling everyone what is happening in my country, and that's extremely important.
And so in your view, what has kind of led to the problems in Venezuela? And can you kind of describe for us what sorts of things have you seen there? What has it led to?
Yeah, I'm going to give you like an historical perspective of the matter. My country in the 1970s was rich. I mean, it was one of the 20th richest countries in the world. That was incredible. I mean, it was a country with problems, but we had opportunities. We have a country in which everyone can dream, can like study, can make something out of their lives. However, since Chavez rose to power, he began doing these public policy, economic policies who are against entrepreneurship, who are against private property, and who are against really everyone who's trying to change their life for better. So in my country, a lot of people emigrate because if you want to have a business in my country, it's extremely difficult. If in my country you want to be like whatever, an engineer or an architect, and you want to pursue your dreams and create something, you have bureaucrats and you have the government just telling you that you can't do that. And that's extremely difficult to have a country like that and to have a good economy.
And so can you talk about what kinds of consequences have you seen in terms of like people's access to food and basic sort of resources?
I mean, it's horrible because, all the latest polls we got, for example, 80% of my people cannot like eat 3 times per day. That's horrible. You have people losing weight. Last year, people lose on average 20 pounds. That's unbelievable. That's catastrophic. And that's are the results of socialism, and those are the results of these economic policies. So you have people just emigrating to other countries, just going to Colombia, to Peru, just going to these countries because in Venezuela, they cannot feed their families. And that's the most horrible thing, that in my country, you can be an architect, you can study, you can have your masters, but you cannot feed your family. And if you have my age, for example, you have 22, 21, 23, whatever, and you have a girlfriend, you cannot pay for even a movie ticket. It's impossible because our minimum wage, look, in order to eat 3 times per day, you need to earn 40 minimum wages. That's horrible. And that's the situation that my country is living in right now. A country that, by the way, has oil. So imagine that, a country that is rich in oil, a country that was supposed to be a developed country, a country that was supposed to be the best country of Latin America. Because it's a country that not only we have oil, but we have great human capital, we have people who want to do amazing stuff, and when they go to other countries, they do great stuff. And in my country, the only reason that my people are suffering is because we have a government who is telling every single one of those people, no, you can't dream, no, you can't have your business, you can't study, you can't do all these things that are the basic things to have a great nation. Because a nation is a place that you should have a strong community in which everyone has their own dreams and everyone can pursue them and everyone can just live happy, man. That's what we want. Just have a country in which we can be happy, we can work, we can progress. And in socialism you can't, because systematically they try to destroy your dreams, silence your voice, and systematically they try to kill whatever you have inside, this passion for be someone in life.
What would you address to people, like especially to left-wing parties in all the other countries, who always say socialism works in Venezuela, it's socialism of the 21st century? What would you tell these people?
I mean, it's like, there are, for example, articles by Bernie Sanders. He has some articles saying that Venezuela in 2004 and Ecuador were the role models of the United States. And that's scary. Because I come from a country in which people are really, really suffering. And I don't want that to any other country. I don't want that to happen again in any Latin American country. And I can tell them that what they really defend is a system in which you become dependent on the state. That you become someone who the only way to eat is that you need to have the state giving you. But for the people who follow these political parties, like the activists, I think they have good intentions. In a way that, of course, we want a country in which everyone has a good living, in which everyone can have vacations, in which everyone can have education. We want that. However, what we need to tell them, and what we must tell them, is that the best way that they can develop these ideas, they can develop their passions, is in a country in which you have opportunities. And the only way to do it is to have a country of freedom, a country in which everyone can pursue their dreams, in a country in which everyone has the independency to really say, hey, if I'm gonna be like the best soccer player, I'm gonna do it. If I wanna be the best musician, I'm gonna do it. And in socialism, you can't. In socialism, you can because you have the state telling you, no, you can't. And the state needs to provide you everything. So for those who follow these political parties, they may have good intentions, but the consequences are horrible. And for those in those political parties, they understand what is happening in my country. However, they also understand that in socialism, those who really have a good living are the politicians. Because they come and they go to your business and they tell you, hey, you know, that business is mine now. And that's what is happening in my country. Chavez, Maduro, and all these guys went to, for example, to the farms. And they went to the farms and they just go to a farm and they say like, hey, this is mine now. They went to, like I say, like a Macy's or like when it's called the department store. This is mine now. So you have now, yeah. So you have now a system in which politicians are rich, in which politicians, they can travel to the United States, they can travel to these countries and buy good clothes, good food for their families, but the people are suffering.
Can you talk about what kinds of activism can be done to actually change it? It seems like really a powerhouse of problems that you're facing, and not so many people with so much power to actually fight against them.
Yes, I mean, it's like here in the United States we can do so many stuff, because here in the United States you can speak out. Here's a country that, of course, we have some issues, but in this country you can debate these issues, and you can go to universities, you can go to media and debate and try to find a happy medium in which you can have good public policies, good economic policies. What you guys can do to help us is to really go to your politicians, go to media and ask them, hey, what do you think about Venezuela? What are your opinions on the Venezuelan crisis? What can we do ourselves to improve the situation over there? So now if Venezuela becomes something that is in the eye of everyone, then our people will feel that the world is helping us in this fight. Because sometimes the scariest part of a country that is falling apart is that you feel that you are alone. It's that you feel that everyone else doesn't understand you, doesn't understand your struggles. But that's why I think the last year we have made so many advances, because right now you have in media talking about Venezuela. You had people at the UN, at the Organization of American States, at the Senate. You had people talking about the issues. And when you start seeing people talking about the issues, that's a relief, because you feel that you are not alone. You feel that you have people from all over the world helping you in this fight, not only economically, not only politically, but they are there with you. And they understand you and they feel your struggles. And I think that's what I really want to thank all Americans. Because you guys have been so good, not only with me, but to everyone who's doing what I'm doing. That is being vocal, to speaking out for those who had 100 years, for those who have so many years fighting for this.
What kind of message do you have to people who want to take America in a direction like the policies, not necessarily the outcome, but who think that they can kind of move the direction in the policies that Venezuela has?
I will tell them that all the economic policies and public policies and social policies of Venezuela created this misery that we're living right now. And that they should understand that. And I think they understand it. That's the scariest part.
We had a Students for Liberty conference, which is now called LibertyCon.
Yes.
There are also activists in Venezuela. Can you tell us some stories about them? What happened to them? And
yes.
Yeah.
We have good activists in Venezuela. In fact, every year it's more difficult to do activism in Venezuela. But we have great people in my country. from Students for Liberty, who are over there doing the good fight, who are over there telling everyone what is happening and really trying to put everyone together into communities, not only for political reasons, but for everything. When you have a country that is struggling, the thing that you need to do is just to need to be together as a community, help each other out, help each other like for everything, even to eat, even to do protests for everything. So that's why they have been doing an amazing job, a difficult job, but an amazing one.
What would happen if you would organize really big demonstration against the government? What would they do?
Well, for example, last year we were more than 100 days in constant protests, every single day. We protest for 155 days, I think it was in a row. And what was the result? More than 150 students were killed. Killed. More than 4,000 were in some point of the protest in jail. And that's what is happening in these kind of countries. In countries in which you cannot go to elections because the elections are rigged. You cannot go to the streets because they will kill one of your friends. And you cannot really speak out in media because the media was nationalized. So all TV channels, all radio stations in Venezuela are owned by the regime, owned by the government. So you cannot express yourself. That's why the only way that we can express ourselves is in social media. And that's extremely difficult because the people who are the most poor people in my countries don't have Twitter, don't have Facebook. So the way to do is to go to their neighborhoods and talk to them, house by house. You need to knock every single door to tell them that you are with them, to tell them that they have someone who is really trying to improve their lives in one way or another. And that's a difficult job, but the job that we need to do. And in this massive protest of thousands of people, we have had protests of more than 1 million people. Imagine that. And what the government does? Repression. They send the military, they send the police, and they just shoot at us. They send criminals to shoot at us, and we go peacefully. The way we protest in Venezuela, we're with a white t-shirt, we go with our slogans, we go with just good intentions to peacefully protest. So that way we can tell the world that we are here, protesting and we want a change. But what happened? The government just attacked us. Every single time, systematically. They put us either in jail or they kill. And that's horrible. And the politicians who have been more vocal and they have been more with us on the streets, they are in jail and they cannot do anything. And they are constantly watched by the government. And that's what is happening, and that's why it's so difficult to protest in my country.
Is protesting actually useful? Do you think that it can create real change?
It is useful. It is something that we need to do with responsibility because it is dangerous as well. But we need to keep protesting because we cannot. Because if we stop protesting, it's that we are giving up. We need to keep protesting. We need to do it in its smartest way. We need to do it peacefully and in ways that the government cannot do as much damage as they want to do. But of course we need to be protesting because right now, because all these protests, you have people internationally paying attention to what is happening. But why? Why? Because they see that in the country, every single day you have people protesting on the streets and protesting and protesting. And that's powerful. Because when you have an entire country devoted to make a change, you know that the change will come. Because in my country, it doesn't matter if you have 21 years old, it doesn't matter if you have 40 years old, it doesn't matter if you live inside the country or outside the country, you are protesting. And you are trying to make something out of this bad situation. You are trying to help economically, or you are trying to do whatever you can do to improve the situation.
Can you give us some examples which you had personal experience with, or some of your friends? I mean, what happened to them?
Yes,
or to you?
I mean, it's like when you are in Venezuela and you are organizing protests, you know that they are watching you. You know that, for example, you are organizing like a meeting, for example. Let's gather some people and let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about ways that we can get out of this problem. So you gather this meeting, and out of the, 200 people, 2 are sent by the government, right? So they scare at you. They tell you, hey, you need to stop doing this, or otherwise we'll do this and that. And that's the risky thing. Without going into details, everyone should know what is happening there. Everyone will understand the difficulties of doing something in my country, because they will infiltrate you people, and they will try to turn your things into violent, like events. And that's also like very difficult.
Has that happened where they try to actually increase the violence or
Yes.
provoke from
Yes,
within?
yes.
Can you tell me about that more?
Yes, they do that. For example, we do protest the students, for example. So we have, I don't know, let's say 1,000 people. And of the 1,000, if you have two that are infiltrated by the regime, like with a gun or something, then all peaceful like agenda simply stops. Because when you have two people with guns, like so yeah, that happens. But at the same time, we have mechanism to really to try to find who these people are, but it's difficult. It's extremely difficult to really like stop that as well.
Any advice for an activist who is concerned about government infiltrators?
Activists in Venezuela or here in?
If it's applicable anywhere, but I meant
Yes.
Venezuela specifically.
Yes, I mean you need to know your people. You need to see that, for example, if you have a student movement, you need to see if someone is not a student, actually a student. You need to have people like around, like the protest, for example, people at the back, people at the middle, people at the front, listen to what people are saying. So, and always maintain like the peaceful agenda. And when someone is trying to say like, no, let's do this, let's do that, you need to have everyone prepared to say like, no, this guy then is not with us. Then leave and go somewhere else. But of course, it's difficult. It's much more than that. It's preparation, it's having people, it's having organization, it's all this kind of stuff.
Let's talk in general a little bit about socialism. I mean,
Okay.
we had a lot of experience or experiments, I would call them.
Yes.
How could they do that in Venezuela again and try it again?
Look, socialism has failed everywhere they go because of policies. Socialism fails because it's against human nature. Humans, we want to create, we want to discover new things. We want to go out there and tell everyone that we are here to be someone in life. And socialism is against that. So when socialism is imposed, they destroy all entrepreneurship. They tell everyone you cannot dream. And that's why you have a bad economy. At the same time, those who try to do something are nationalized. And that's why it fails everywhere. And in my country, they fail receiving worse. Why? Because my country is rich in oil. My country has the largest reserves of oil in the world. And they screw that. I cannot believe it. No one can believe that. In Venezuela, in these 20 years of Maduro and Chavez, we received over $1 trillion. $1 trillion in revenue from oil. What happened with that? Corruption, and just the money just stay in the pockets of the politicians, which is the horrible part of the situation.
I'm trying to think if I had anything else to add to it. What I guess is your message warning, etc., to Americans?
I always tell Americans that the time for defend your freedom is now. Is that every day you need to defend it, and now that you have here in the United States way to defend it peacefully, because in my country the only way to defend your democracy is to go on the street and risk your life. But here you can defend it like going to television, debating, going to university, and with courage defend your ideas. And I tell everyone that they should do that, and they are doing it. I mean, events like this one, you have so many great people who are working in the universities, in their campuses, in whatever they are, to defend these ideas now, before it's too late. And I think that's like what Venezuelans want to tell everyone as well. That what happened in our country, we don't want that for any other country, because it's difficult. Now that you have the dictatorship in power and you have the economic system, the socialist economic system in power, it's so difficult to break, and that's why we are going everywhere to try to get help, get recommendations, and keep this fight. But that's why I tell everyone that the time for defending your freedom is now.
But the interesting situation in Venezuela is, for me, they still have allies like Cuba or other countries
Yeah.
who support them. How can that be?
I mean, the good thing about the international situation right now is that, for example, the upcoming elections who are rigged, that Maduro is telling everyone, more than 50 countries have pronunciated and say like, no, these are rigged elections. And of course they have allies, but who are the allies? Iran, Cuba, and small countries that we give oil, so they're happy and they vote for us, like the Organization of American States, etc. But their core allies that were, for example, Argentina now under Macri is with our side, with the side of those who want democracy in our country. Bolivia already said to Evo Morales that we don't want you anymore. We don't want you to be re-elected. In Ecuador, you are seeing economic reforms more to what we want in that country. So their allies are now very shy, just a few of them, as Cuba. Cuba, for years, we gave them a lot of oil money. Of course, they're our allies, because otherwise the country will be even worse than what it is right now. Because Cuba lived from the Soviet Union at the beginning, and now they live thanks to the oil revenues of Venezuela. So those are their allies. But the vast majority of the international community of almost every European country, America, Canada, almost any Latin American country, they all understand that Venezuela is a dictatorship and that we need to do everything that we can to make a change. And not only for Venezuela, but for the refugee situation that we're having in Latin America. You have Venezuelans going to Colombia, to Peru, to Ecuador to seek opportunities, and the countries are now looking like, hey, we need to do something with this country. We need to do it. Why? Because people are leaving this country and they're coming to our countries, and in a way, that's not good either, because they're coming to work, to do great stuff, but it's difficult to just put people into an economy. So that's the international situation right now, which I think is optimistic, which I think the European Parliament, the UN, the Senate here are doing great stuff. Also, Tillerson has been doing great stuff, Mike Pence. So I think that's a positive sign.
Wouldn't be a solution just to put Maduro away, or the whole system?
Look, I believe in constitutional, peaceful transitions that are not only to the head, to Maduro. We need to change all these crooks who are in the government. These crooks who are so tied to the government businesses that it's not only the president, it's much more than that. And we are working for that. And the people want that, a real change. Look, my people are suffering. They will not allow a small or a light change. If we are gonna make a change, it's gonna be for good. It's gonna change everything. The system, the political system, everything, to have really a democracy, to have justice, rule of law, and to have an economy that gives opportunity to everyone. And I'm sure, for the way our people are, for the resources we have, that in 10 years my country will be good again, and it will be a country that we can really say we're going to the right direction.
Can you give us an example for how the government thinks about you?
Yeah.
What do they say in Venezuela about you?
Well, I don't want to talk personally against me, but to anyone who is doing what we are doing inside and outside the country, the government just attacks us, and they say that I don't know, that we are traitors to the patria or something.
CIA agents, or
yeah, this kind of stuff. Yeah, this kind of stuff.
So if you had one free wish,
yes,
what would it be?
See my country free tomorrow. See my country free, and see a just country for everyone. I really believe that doesn't matter if you come from a very poor neighborhood. Doesn't matter. You need to have a country in which you know and you internalize and you understand that you can be someone in life. That's my biggest dream, that any kid who is born in my country feels that this country can give you opportunities. And that I understand that will not happen to one day to the other. But I'm sure not only me, but all these people who are right now fighting for a change, when the change comes, they will fight to preserve that change and to make this change as transparent and as honest as possible. And I think that will be a free wish, as you said.
How is your feeling not to live at home, I would say?
I mean, of course, it's hard. It's like one of the difficult things, because America is great, it's beautiful, but at the same time, you miss your friends, you miss the life that you used to live, you miss your communities, you miss just going to the guy who used to live 3 houses from you and just talk. So it's difficult, and the things that the country that I grew up, the country that I saw 10 years ago, doesn't exist anymore. Because it's a country that even if I come back tomorrow, the businesses of the places that I used to go, they're now closed. The people I used to hang with, they moved to other countries. So it's really difficult. I think it's one of the most difficult things of doing this.
How could what could other countries do? I mean, for example, like the European countries,
yes,
the US. What could they do to help you?
I mean, I think right now they are doing good stuff. For example, the Treasury Department, the State Department, the European Parliament, they all have been very vocal into saying that Venezuela is a dictatorship, it's a tyrannical regime, and that's useful. Also, the US and right now the European Parliament as well, they're imposing sanctions toward individuals at the government, to public officials. And I think that's very important as well, because that money that they have is money that they stole from my people. And you start putting them sanctions, you're taking the money away from them, you start causing troubles inside the government, inside the regime. And so I think those are steps that the institutions here and in Europe are starting to do, and I think are good things for overall for the country.
You just mentioned some sanctions.
Yeah.
We also talk a lot about cryptocurrencies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We just heard that the Venezuelan government want to make an own coin or something like that. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's like, because for example we have sanctions in the international community, have sanctions against the Venezuelan bonds and the PDVSA bonds, who are the bonds of the state owned oil industry. They're trying to circumvent these sanctions through this cryptocurrency. That is, the name is the Petro, and I mean that's just a joke. It's not really a cryptocurrency. It's not from a blockchain, type of system. No, not only that. It's just one way that they do more corruption, and they're trying to circumvent these sanctions.
Do the citizens use the crypto at all?
No, no one uses it. No one uses it.
No one uses it.
No, it's only a way for the government to do more corruption.
Have other cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, etc., been used by citizens in Venezuela? Does that
Yes,
make a difference for people?
yes, of course. They use it, and it's really almost impossible for the government to regulate that and to stop that.
What kind of difference does that make in people's lives, though?
I mean, for example, if you send donations to Venezuela, that's a good way to do it, through Bitcoin and things like that. Because in Venezuela, that you cannot regulate that, you cannot limit that. So I think that's something important.
Cool. Andreas?
I think we're done. I'm fine with everything
Thanks.
you
All right.
said.
Thank you, guys.
So we're going to call it there.
Thank you very much.